Hello everybody, welcome to Crafty Soup. My name is Misty. Today I'm here with a layout process video for the scraphappy.org blog. And the theme for this one is all about pets, and specifically I'm going to talk about telling the stories behind the scenes of your pets. So I did go ahead and take these photos of items that are important to the care for my cat. There's treats, there's his hairbrush, and then of course there's litter. And I'm going to be using my counterfeit kit for the month of August to tell this story. If you don't know about my kits, I will leave links for you in the show description and you can check that out. So I had a very specific design in mind for this layout, and I'm trying to find papers here that will match the significant item in each photo. Now that photo of the litter had several different colors going on, so I did get a little fussy with my papers trying to figure out which one I wanted to use. And then I pulled out some background papers, including this teal paper that has this kind of burst print to it, which reminded me of hairballs, which honestly, while it's gross, it is part of my cat's story. Once I've got my papers chosen, I go ahead and start with the design of this layout. And this is going to be about angled stripes going across my page. So in order to get these angles, I just offset my paper in my trimmer just a little bit to get a bit of an angle there. I didn't measure or anything here at first, but then in order to get these angles to match on the other papers, I will use this one as a template, and I just put a couple of pencil marks on this paper, put it back into my trimmer and line up those pencil marks with the cut line on my trimmer, and then my pieces will match, and then when I put this layout together, those angles will match and make sense. So I continue that process with the rest of the prints here, and you'll see later that I changed my mind on that blue pattern paper because there is blue in my photo, but there's also orange and green, and at first I thought I was going to match it up with the blue, but then I decided really that orange is kind of the dominant color there, so I chose this piece of paper that has orange polka dots on it, and I used that instead. And you can see my kitty actually joined me for scrapbooking. He does that often. If you have seen my videos in the past, you may have noticed him before. And while he's sitting there, I go ahead and mat up my photos and with just a very dark blue pattern paper. And then I start adhering everything down because I have the basic structure ready to go for this layout. And I'm going to offset those photos onto the thin edge of these angled strips, and I'm popping them up with some just scraps of foam that I have left over from other projects. And then I go ahead and move on to my title, and I have several alphabet sets in this stash, and I decide that I'm going to do a two-part title. The first part says cats, and I used kind of a wood grain there that reminds me of a scratching post, and then I wanted the rest of the title, which says behind the scenes, to be in a higher contrast color so that that actually reads louder, so to speak, than the cats part of the title does, because that's the main focus of what this story is all about. And then I turn to embellishing this page, and what I'm going to do here is color block each of those strips with embellishments that kind of match up color-wise, and that's what I mean by color blocking. And so I pull out at least 3 elements for each strip, a larger element, a medium element, and a smaller element that will be the very basis of my embellishment clusters here. And for each one I did find a tag that would work, so I was sure to kind of include some repetition of elements, which is one of those design principles that make layouts more interesting. I did ink edges of almost all the pattern papers in this layout because I like the pop that that is happening against, or that is giving against all of the other elements. And then I start building up my cluster. I'm sure to kind of offset tags with little journal blocks and whatnot so that none of the lines line up. Because of the angles on this layout, I don't want anything to be straight and even. That would be out of place because of the angles of the background. So I want to give everything a little bit of a tipped and wonky feel. Now that element, which I chose as my medium size element, was still too big, so I went ahead and trimmed it down and layered it up with another piece to make it read more as medium without it actually being medium. And then I add a little rainbow down there, and I am popping up some of the embellishments in each cluster with a little bit of foam, again to add texture and dimension and to give it more interest. Now here I have this little tag that I was adding in. I didn't have it in orange, so I went ahead and used the blue because it matched up with the photo okay. So it's not exactly color blocked, but it works out. And I did resize that tag by just trimming out the middle of it and then gluing the tag back together, and that made it fit the proportions I needed much better. Now I'm moving on to this technique that I kind of made up while I was filming, and that is to create some fringed washi tape ribbon. I know you're probably thinking, what the heck am I talking about? So hopefully if you watch this process, it'll make sense. So what I did with this washi tape is I just pulled out several strips and I laid them down on my table, and I overlapped them because it wasn't wide enough to give enough fringe. Once I pulled that tape off the table, I folded it in half so that there would be no sticky left to this tape. And I trimmed off the rough ends, and then I have this block of tape. I trimmed out the middle portion because in order to fit through that hole of the tag, it needed to be narrower. And then I start fringing. I just use my scissors to snip towards that center portion as many times as I feel like I want. And then I can slip all of that in there and tuck it into my tag. I do use some glue in order to hold that all in place because it won't stick otherwise because we've covered up all that sticky. So here's a second look at that. I've overlapped my tape on my table. I peel it up. I fold it to itself so that there's no sticky left. I trim off any weird edges. And then here's what I realized worked better is that if I trim it into this hourglass shape, that actually fit better through the holes there. And then I kind of give it a little pinch and a squeeze, and I tuck it into that hole, and I give it a squirt of glue and just hold it down for a second. And then I decided that particular one, the fringe was a little too long and still a little too long, so I ended up trimming it down. But then it reminds me of a little puffball, kind of a toy that a cat might play with. And the other fun thing about using washi tape instead of ribbon is that you can get fun patterns on your washi tape. Maybe you have more choices of colors, and you can fringe it, which is not as easy to do with ribbons. Okay, and then I moved on to adding a few more touches of embellishments there, a couple of little stickers, a couple of enamel dots, and then I added my journaling lines with my favorite stamp. That stamp is no longer available, but I'll leave a link to something similar if you're interested. And then I go back to my embellishments and see if there's any other little bits I want to add. I do find a couple more stickers. There's like a little bow sticker that I add, a little camera sticker, and then a little squirrel sticker because my cat likes to watch squirrels out the window at my house. And really that finishes off my layout. I will go ahead and add my journaling to this off screen, and then I will come back to that and show you a few more still photos. I hope you enjoyed this layout process video, and I'd like to encourage you to go check out the Scrap Happy blog where our team members are sharing pet stories all month long. And if you're looking for a wonderful, friendly scrapbooking community, you might consider joining Scrap Happy. And I can leave links for you in the description box to that as well. I do have an affiliate link if you decide to join, and I would very much appreciate it if you decided to use that link. It won't cost you extra, but I do get a little bit of a benefit. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you next time.